Okay, so of course today's topic is performance reviews. So performance review is just a general overview of how an employee has performed their work functions over a period of time. So iSolve just gives us a good way to put that all in one system instead of using paper. Okay. So each employer generally, of course, has their own rating systems, review topics for their performance reviews. I've never really seen a performance review that are all the same. So iSolve gives us the great functionality to be able to customize the performance reviews to the industry and to the needs of the employers based on employee type. So we can have several different ones, several different rating systems, and questions based on the type of review that you need. The program also allows for the option to assign different supervisors and managers to complete the reviews, as well as having the employee acknowledge the review once it's completed. So all this lives in one nice place in iSolved. So I'm going to share my screen to show you guys how you can yourself create these. All right, if you guys can see my iSolve screen, we're going to, this is as a client user view, and then we will go into manager supervisor view and employee view. So if we navigate to client management, human resource management, and then we're going to have three different screens that we're going to start with. So performance review ratings. So this is going to define the rating system. So here, once we title it, then we can create our ratings. So these are all customizable as far as the title. Display order, of course, is just the order that it's going to show up in. Value is going to give you basically your average rating at the end once the review is complete. If the value is left as 0 or left blank, it will display as a 0. So just keep that in mind if you use like a does not apply, that is going to rate it as a 0. And then you can also give additional description here for those ratings. So I've set up a few different ones depending on the different rating systems. So here's another example where I did not use values. And then you can even do like a true false. So the possibilities are endless here. So then the next thing that we need to set up is review types. So you may have a review type. Of course, you might have a 90-day review, an annual review, if you want the employees to complete a self-review. And then you can also have different ones based on types of employees. So you may have an annual review for your part-time employees that would have different questions than your annual review for your full-time employees. So this is just going to be the title that is going to have you select which review type. So both of these tie into when we actually go into performance reviews to create this. So here we have lots of options. So our review title is going to show up on the review itself. So you want to title this what you want the review to be titled. Then you're going to choose your rating system that you want to use. So those ratings that we created over here, we want to choose which rating we want for this review. Then the allow overall comments, so you can see in that little box that it gives you that description that on the overall score page, which is the last page once the review is complete, you're able to add comments. So this is a max of 1,000 characters. And so that shows up on the last page. So you can choose to allow that or to not allow it. Here is the assigned reviewer is going to be the supervisor or manager or employee. So which role are you wanting to complete this review? You can select multiple. So of course on this self review here, I selected that the employee is going to be the one to complete the review. And then this third section is going to be whether you require the employee to acknowledge the review. So once the manager or supervisor has completed their portion of the review, then the employee would log in and then look over and acknowledge the review once it's complete. And then this is going to show that that review is completed. And we'll go into kind of how that looks in a different screen, the different statuses as well. So once you hit save on this screen, your two other tabs are going to populate. So of course, we are going to have our questions. So once you've created the questions, they're going to display over here. But then to add new ones, you will do that here. So your display order is going to be, of course, the order that those questions display. And then your rating system. So within your review, each question can use a different rating system. So this is where we could use maybe if a question was more true or false, we can use that true or false. So back on this screen, this is just going to be the overall rating system. But then each question can use a different one. So then here is where you can allow comments on each individual question. So maybe you're not using a rating system and it's just a question that actually needs to have a typed out answer. So of course you can see that there's not an asterisk here, so this rating system's not required. But then you could allow comments. Of course, this is back to the 1,000 characters. And then, so this is your question. And then when they would be completing the review, they would have a comments box to be able to answer that. So then the next step is going to be email alerts. So on this tab, you are able to set up email alerts for the reviewer, so who you have assigned to complete the review. So to create these emails and the content of these emails, you will navigate to client management, workflow setup, and email templates. Not everyone has access to these screens, but you can reach out to your account manager to discuss getting that access. We can also create these email templates for you if that's necessary. So that leaves under email templates. So I've already went ahead and created what this email content is. But when we hit add new, I can use the same email template. So this basically, the subject is going to be upcoming performance review. And I'm going to say, I want another reminder to go 3 days before the review date. So this is going to get sent, like I said, to that supervisor or manager who you have assigned to complete that review. So you can also do it for after the review date. And then the next section of this is the reviewee. So this is going to be if you have done, marked that box to have the employee acknowledge the performance review. So I've created an email template that says, please acknowledge this review once it's complete. So then it is going to send an email every 3 days while that review is in pending acknowledgement status. So the review will not go to pending acknowledgement status until the supervisor or manager has completed the review and marked it as completed, and then it will go to this pending acknowledgement status. So once that date, it will do every 3 days. That you can change this, of course, and it will continue to send that email until it's completed. So then we also can reassign reviewer. So if you have multiple supervisors or managers assigned to that employee, then they have the option to reassign. So of course, if I'm not available and I wanted to reassign that, say something came up and I need someone else to complete it, I could do that, but we want to notify that person, of course. So back in the email templates, I had created some content that says, basically notifies that other supervisor or manager that they have a new review. So that can be set up there as well. So each one of these, of course, a self-review, I have a different email template because it's going directly to that employee to complete their own review. And then these don't really pertain when the employee is completing it themselves. So also with the email alerts, the default is that the email will be sent at 5 p.m. Eastern time on the designated day. So if this review is scheduled 5 days out from today, then I would receive an email today at 5 p.m. Eastern time. I would receive that email. So I know that's a question we get sometimes. Alrighty, so that is the setup of creating the performance reviews themselves. So we set up our type, our rating system, and then the review itself. So creating the review and who we want to complete it, and if we want to require acknowledgement, we create our questions, email alerts if necessary, and then your performance review is complete. So now we need to go to actually scheduling the review. So this is going to be under employee management, performance reviews, and schedule review. So then you will select the employee that you would like to schedule the review for. So this is going to be the employee that the review is going to be on, not the actual reviewer. So Wilbur here, we have some reviews assigned to him. So you would select your review date. The period start and end date is going to be the period that's being reviewed. So of course, if this is a 90-day review, then I have my 90 days that I'm looking back on, which would be, of course, from hire date. Or you can do, if it's for the full year of 2020, you would use those dates. So here's where you would select your review type and then select your review that you created those questions for. Over here on the right-hand side is going to be who you're assigning the reviewer, who you are assigning this review to. So we can see that his assigned manager and assigned supervisor is Lydia and Ann. Then down here, this is additional reviewers. So it's important to read these notes. So this review can be assigned to one or more additional manager or supervisors by making selections in the list below. Each manager or supervisor will have their own review to complete. So this is going to be, since all 4 boxes of these are checked, then this is saying that all 4 of these supervisors and managers would be completing this review. So if there are more than one person completing one review, then you would just basically, if you have a first section, you could go through and answer those questions, and then the second manager, if they needed to complete a different section of the review, then they would go in and start the review where the other one left off. So that's that verbiage there. So you can see we have a few out here. This is the self-review. And the system knows who these managers and supervisors are. So if there is not a manager or supervisor assigned to an employee, it's going to notify you here. You can still schedule the review, but it's not going to be assigned to anyone until you assign them a supervisor and manager, and then you can come back and check this box. So it knows for the self-review, when I select that type, that the reviewer, of course, is going to be Wilbur himself. Okay, so then where do the supervisors, managers, or employees see these reviews that are pending for them? So this is going to be under employee self-service and pending reviews. So as you can see here, because I'm still under my client user view, I have nothing assigned. So Service Bureau users, which would be your account managers, or client users, which is if you're logged in with a username, not an employee email address, then nothing is going to show here for you because these reviews are assigned to supervisors, managers, or employees, not client users. So that's important to note. So we are going to switch over to a supervisor view and see what it looks like from there. It's kicked me out. Give me just 1 second. Okay, so here I've logged in as my manager. So first, of course, when we log in, we're under our employee view. So I'm going to switch to my manager view. And then I have some more options over here. So as we said before, employee self-service, pending reviews. So I can see that Lydia has all of these reviews assigned to her. And then, like I was talking about earlier, the status over here. So Wilbur's is not started yet. Daniel's is in progress. So Lydia started it, but she hasn't completed it yet. This other one for Wilbur, it's been completed by Lydia, the supervisor or manager, but it's still pending that Wilbur log in and acknowledge that. So it's showing as pending acknowledgement. Then of course, these other two, they have not been started as well. So up here in your black action bar, we can hit start. Oh, that's a bad example. Hold on, I didn't create questions for my 90-day. Okay, so then this is what it's going to look like. You're going to have your question at the top, your ratings that you selected. So the 10, 8, 5, and 2, those are those values that I assigned to these ratings. And then if you clicked allow comments on this specific question, then you're going to have a comment box. So this is like I was talking about, if this was a specific question that just needed a written answer, then you would just type it here in the comment box. So you could just hit next. You can go previous and back. You can skip questions until you've completed them. So let's just go through and complete this one. So you guys can see the average at the end, the overall rating. Okay, so then this is your overall. So this is where you can choose the overall rating that you would like to give, any overall comments here. And then it's going to give you your rating based on those values as well as points. So like we were talking about, if there's a question and you have the option to do not applicable, and you don't put a value, it's going to give them 0. So it may look like their total overall points, it may lower their overall rating as far as having a 0 for those points. So if I do not mark as complete, then this is not going to go to the employee to acknowledge just yet. So if we went back and looked at that screen, it would still say in progress because I've not marked it as completed. So once I mark it as complete, then now we are able to see it's also pending EE acknowledgement. This view button is going to give you a PDF version. So if you would like to print it out and fill it out on paper, then that is what that view button is going to do. So we can see I had started this one, but I had not completed it. So you can see here that my answers are checked. And then it has your signature boxes there. So you can also get it in this form. Here on Wilbur's, which of course I don't have questions for my 90-day review, so this one's probably going to be blank, but it wouldn't have the X's in those boxes. So then the next thing that we talked about was being able to reassign the review. So say something came up and I'm not able to complete this today because Reginald has multiple supervisors assigned to him. I can click reassign review up here. So these other ones, I don't have that option. But if there are multiple, there has to be another manager or supervisor assigned to the employee to be able to reassign the review. So then I can choose. So Regina is the second person on this one. I can choose to reassign this one to Regina and hit save. So then it's not on my list anymore. So then to be able to see from an employee perspective of how they're going to acknowledge these, we can go to, and I'll go switch my user here. So they are going to be able to go to the review history. So performance review history under employee self-service. And here I can see that I have my self-review that is not started. And then I have this annual that's waiting. And I can see my ratings, my total points, and my scaled score. So if I hit next on this, I can go through and I can see all the comments and what was rating was given to me. Okay, so then here's my acknowledgement. I agree, I disagree, and then I have the option to write a comment. And then I can save. So we're going to go back to here. And now, since I've acknowledged, it's finally marked as a complete status. If the box is not checked to require acknowledgement, then once the supervisor or manager marks it as complete, then this will show incomplete status. But if it does require that acknowledgement, it will say pending acknowledgement until it's been completed. So from here, we can also see this is where under pending reviews for Wilbur, he would be able to see that self-review, but then he can also see it from performance review history. So now I'm going to switch back to my client user, and we're just going to go over some reports that you are able to run based on performance reviews. So here are the 4 that are able to run, and you're able to run them by date range. If you have multiple pay groups, multiple legal companies, you're able to sort by that or see them in one group. So you can see next scheduled, any that are past due, completed, or scheduled. So next scheduled is just going to be the next upcoming one. Scheduled is displays all employees that have performance reviews scheduled. So those are the reports, and of course you can search. If you do not see these reports in your My Reports or your client reports, please reach out to your account manager and we can make sure that those are in your setup. Okay, I am. If you guys have any questions, you can use the chat or questions. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording.